IELTS Speaking Part 1 section is a casual discussion between you and the examiner. Most students often find this part challenging because they don't know how to structure their answers. So in today's video, I am going to provide you with a 3-step plan on how exactly you should be answering your IELTS Speaking Part 1 questions. So just an overview of what exactly you should expect. There are 3 different parts in the IELTS Speaking section, which are Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. So it starts with Part 1, which is, as I mentioned, a casual discussion. And in this part, the examiner will be asking you about yourself, about your family, your living situation, if you study or work. So important that you don't just answer questions with one-word answers. Make sure you show some expression when you are answering the questions. Like if the examiner asks what your name is, don't just say, "My name is Mike." Try to show some expression. Try to speak in full sentences, guys. Because remember, this is an English test. It is not just a question and answer test to see if you could answer the question. If the examiner asks what your name is, answer with something like, "My name is Sarah, but actually my friends call me so-and-so." Give them a nickname and try to speak in full sentences. This way you are showing off your English speaking capabilities to the examiner. So let's talk about the 3-step plan. So step 1 is that you need to answer the question directly. What I mean by this is when you are giving your answer to the examiner, don't use the same words that were just asked to you. Rather, reword the question that was asked to you using different words. So for example, if the examiner asks you, "What is your favorite sport?" You don't need to say, "My favorite sport is basketball." Try to reword the answer by saying something like, "Actually, I really love basketball. I've always had a passion to play basketball since I was younger. So I'd say basketball is my favorite sport." You can use the word sport, but don't use it in the opening sentence when you are answering your question. Step 2 in how you should answer your IELTS Speaking Part 1 question is to elaborate on the answer. Do not just give a simple answer to the examiner. Just like the example I gave you previously, try to elaborate on the answer. If the examiner asks you what your hobbies are, don't just say, "I like to watch TV and I like to play sports." If you say, "I like to watch TV and I like to play sports," elaborate. Tell them what types of shows or movies you like to watch on TV, what types of sports you like to watch on TV. And a general rule of thumb I like to give to my students when they answer their IELTS Speaking Part 1 questions is that they should only give an answer of 3 sentences maximum. So try to answer within 3 sentences. Remember that the IELTS Speaking Part 2 section gets a little more longer and then Part 3 is a bit more difficult. So you want to make sure you don't give answers that are so long where the examiner stops you and moves to the next question. So for example, if the examiner asks you a question like, "What kind of clothes do you like to wear on a daily basis?" You should try to give an answer like, "To be honest, comfort is so important to me when it comes to clothing, especially because I am a mom of 2. So I would say that tracksuits are my favorite types of clothing to wear every day." So if you are able to do this in the IELTS Speaking Part 1 section, you will definitely get a high band. And step 3 to when you are answering your IELTS Speaking Part 1 section is you need to make sure you have a smooth transition between your answer and your conclusion. Just like in my previous example, listen again to what I said. I had a very smooth transition to show the examiner I am done what I'm trying to say. To be honest, comfort is so important to me when it comes to clothing, especially because I am a mom of 2. So I would say that tracksuits are my favorite types of clothing to wear every day. So if the examiner asks you a question like, "Do you use a computer often?" you should answer with something like this. "My 9-to-5 job actually requires me to be on the computer quite a bit. So I would say I am on the computer almost every single day of the week." So if you see, I answered the question and then I concluded saying that how often I am on the computer weekly. If you are able to do this, guys, this will show the examiner that you have control of how you speak English and how you can put sentences together to make the most sense. So here are a few more examples of IELTS Speaking Part 1 questions and answers. What is your favorite childhood memory? I would say the best part about being a child was when we would go on road trips with my family. We would try to drive to New York City every month to see my cousins. So if you see in my answer, I did not even use the word childhood memory. I responded to the answer without even having to use that word and using synonym language instead to answer my question. Now have a listen to this. Do you think it's better for a child to grow up in the city or countryside? Growing up in a small town actually taught me a lot. I was able to visit the farm where I learned so much about crops and how they are grown. So I would definitely say there are lots of benefits to kids growing up in the countryside. So just for review, the 3-step plan of how you should be answering your questions for the IELTS Speaking Part 1 section. Step 1 is that you need to make sure you answer the question directly. Step 2 is that you need to make sure you elaborate on the answer. Do not give simple answers and keep your answer to 3 sentences maximum. Step 3 is that you need to make sure you have a smooth transition between your answer and your conclusion. This way, the examiner knows that you are able to structure your sentences properly and correctly, and he gets an idea that you are done answering the question instead of just saying, I'm done. So if you want to learn how exactly you should be answering your IELTS Speaking Part 2 question, make sure you check out this video up above where I explain how exactly you should be formatting your answer when you are responding to your IELTS Speaking Part 2 question.